It was the type of headline that brought the world to a halt. Robert Garrison Brown, dead at only 25. The death of Janelle and Kody Brown's son wasn't merely a tragic loss. It was a haunting yell from inside a family that has been quietly shattering for decades. Audiences of sister wives had known Garrison since he was a boy, seeing him grow from a mischievous kid in Lehigh into a capable, independent young adult in Flagstaff. And even beyond the heavily staged auras of reality television, the warning signs were there. The signs of a slow-building emotional meltdown constructed blow by blow. The tragic thing is, it could have been avoided. Garrison was not only a naughty son rebelling, he was desperately reaching out for connection, order, and emotional safety. But rather than being confronted with compassion, he was met with silences and chill detachment. Kody, that offbeat but active father in early seasons, dancing, teasing, experimenting, had evolved into someone more worried about rules than relationships. The shift was not nuanced, and by the time the pandemic came, the change was blinding. Garrison, in contrast to most of his siblings, refused to toe the line of Kody's strict household rules. He had a career, buddies, aspirations. He wanted autonomy and meaning, not loneliness. But rather than managing that conflict through affection, Kody punished him, not with chastisement or stern discussions, but with vanishing. Silence was his mode. He stayed away, holding absence as a weapon. And Garrison, already struggling to feel emotionally excluded, started constructing walls of his own. The tragedy is that Kody's withdrawal was not about protection. It was ego. He insisted on apologies before physical contact, submission over support, and pushed his sons out for not submitting to his structure. On national television, he called Garrison and Gabriel disrespectful and disloyal, demanding they conform before being worthy of his presence. But kids don't owe allegiance to structure. They are moved by love, consistency, and presence. And when they don't get that, when they see blatant favoritism, such as Robin's kids always being shown mercy and everyone else being held to unobtainable standards, they start to disengage emotionally. That is not parenting. That is systematic neglect masquerading as patriarchal control. So when Garrison died, the fans of the show didn't just grieve, they were angry. Because they had watched the breakdown. They had listened to Garrison's pleas veiled behind sarcasm, behind stone-faced silences, behind fumbling efforts to get back together, and they had watched Kody dismiss it all. Now, out of the blue, Kody begs for privacy in his sorrow. But where was that depth of feeling when his children had quietly disintegrated? Where was the humility when Garrison, in public, declared he was devastated by the wedge being driven between them? This isn't about blame, it's about confronting what was obvious to everyone, that Garrison wasn't lost in one instant of tragedy. He was lost long before, the casualty of a gradual depletion of paternal presence. Kody didn't lose a son all at once. He lost him piece by piece, through years of silence, judgment, and absence masquerading as authority. In order to really get the enormity of Garrison's death, we have to look past the headline and back to the years of sister wives footage that set this stage. In the early seasons, there were glimpses of hope, moments when Garrison still revered his father, attempted to reach out. But as he grew older, he couldn't deny the patterns, the double standards, the favoritism, the control behavior. And when COVID arrived, all the cracks that had accumulated over the years became fault lines. The reality? This was not only a loss, but the heartbreaking result of emotional neglect unfold in real time, season after season, until the silence stuck. That's when the loyalty tests began. Kody, desperate to assert control over a crumbling family, laid down some of the most rigid, isolated, and frankly unrealistic COVID rules we've ever seen. Not rules based on science or safety, but rules based on obedience and Garrison. He wasn't having it. He was working. He was in the National Guard. He had responsibilities. He had a life. And Kody gave him a choice: isolate completely or be cut off. Not just from Kody, but from the entire family unit. That was the ultimatum. Let's stop right there. What kind of father gives his adult son a choice between total submission and total abandonment? Not a protective dad, not a loving patriarch. That's emotional manipulation. Garrison didn't refuse to follow safety protocols. He refused to bend to arbitrary rules designed to punish the wives and kids who weren't living in Robin's house. And when he stood his ground, Kody retaliated with silence. He stopped seeing his sons. He stopped reaching out. He cut them off emotionally while calling it discipline. And Garrison, he kept asking, kept hoping, kept waiting on camera. He said it plainly: I want a relationship with my dad. It hurts. I don't understand why he won't talk to us. That's a young man begging for love, not defiance, not rebellion. That's a child asking his father to just show up. But instead of stepping in with compassion or flexibility, Kody dug in deeper, and that's where the comparison becomes gut-wrenching. Because while Garrison was being iced out for asserting independence, Kody was bending over backwards to coddle Aurora, Robin's daughter, when she had an anxiety episode about going to college. Remember that moment Kody and Robin turned Aurora's anxiety into a full-blown family crisis? They created a sanctuary of support. Kody whispering words of comfort, Robin protecting her emotional space like a fortress. And Garrison showed signs of deep emotional pain, withdrawal, frustration, even despair, and he was met with radio silence. Why? Because Aurora was part of the favored household, because Aurora's vulnerability didn't challenge Kody's authority, but Garrison's did. Let that sink in. One child got empathy, the other got exile. And when you grow up in a household where love is conditional, where affection is based on loyalty and silence is used as punishment, you learn not to ask for help. You learn to suck it up, to toughen your skin, to hide your hurt behind sarcasm and ambition. And that's exactly what Garrison did. He got a job, bought a house, filled it with stray cats. Because let's be honest, those cats were probably the most consistent emotional support he had. But even that wasn't enough. He was still hurting, still hoping Kody might come around, still posting on Instagram, trying to connect with his siblings, building a life he wished someone would be proud of, and Kody still waiting for an apology. Let's be brutally honest, Garrison's story was never about rebellion. It was about neglect, disguised as leadership, about a boy who became a man while waiting for a father to act like one in the middle of this emotional war zone. Between Kody's loyalty demands, Robin's protected bubble, and the boys growing more distant, Janelle stood alone, not dramatically, not loudly, but with a quiet, relentless strength that held her sons together even as the family fractured. Let's be clear, Janelle was the only parent those boys really had, while Kody was off quarantining with Robin and demanding blind obedience from afar. Janelle was the one navigating job changes, housing instability, and her son's emotional needs. She was working, budgeting, managing moves, and still trying desperately to hold on to some sense of normalcy for her children. There's a scene from season 17 that sticks like a knife. Janelle sitting in a rental kitchen, exhausted, saying she can't afford to buy a home because all the family funds are tied up in Coyote Pass, a property that only Kody and Robin seem invested in. Now she gave everything, her savings, her credit, her energy, to the shared family dream. And what did she get? Abandonment. She tried to stay neutral. At first, she encouraged the boys to give Kody grace. She told them, "He's your dad. You need to reach out." But how long can a mother ask her sons to keep knocking on a door that never opens? There's that unforgettable moment, season 17 again, where Janelle finally cracks. She's outside with Christine holding back tears as she says, "He's basically told me he doesn't want to be a father to them unless they apologize. He's choosing Robin and her kids Every time you can hear the devastation in her voice, not just as a wife, but as a mother watching her children be discarded. Janelle was forced into an impossible choice: stand by her sons or stand by Kody. But for her, it was never really a choice. She chose Garrison. She chose Gabriel. She chose her boys over the fantasy of a marriage that Kody had already emotionally checked out of. And that's what makes Janelle the quiet hero of this story. She didn't scream. She didn't retaliate. She tried so hard to keep peace, to hold the center, to mediate a path forward. But in the end, she stood where every good mother does beside her children, even when it meant standing alone, even after the fallout, after Garrison bought his own house, after Gabriel pulled away, after the emotional damage was done. Janelle never gave up trying to reach them. She stayed present. She stayed real, and when Garrison passed, it was her house, not Kody's, where the family grieved. Let that sink in, all the years of head of the household talk from Kody. And when tragedy finally hit the center of gravity, was Janelle. She was the one with the relationships, the one with the credibility, the one who had been showing up all along. For all the focus on emotional betrayal, loyalty, and relationships, there's a massive part of the Brown family collapse that's been hiding in plain sight. The finances were a mess, and that chaos wasn't just about money. It bled into every decision, every living arrangement, and every fractured relationship. Let's go back. This was a family with 4 wives, 18 kids, and 1 legal income for years. Even after they became TV famous, the financial instability never went away. It just got dressed up for camera. Remember when Isabel needed spine surgery for her scoliosis? Christine had to fly her to New Jersey alone. Kody didn't go. He claimed COVID restrictions. But what got brushed over was that they didn't have proper insurance to cover it. A teenage girl needed a major surgery, and the family, who had been on TV for over a decade, still wasn't financially prepared. How does that even happen? And then there's Janelle, once again holding the short end of the stick. She's living in an RV on raw Coyote Pass land because it was the only option. She couldn't afford rent and still keep her name on the property loan, while Robin lived in a nearly $1 million house with Kody, with comfort, with security. Let's be honest, Christine and Janelle carried the emotional and financial load for years. They worked, they raised the kids, they made sacrifices. Meanwhile, Kody and Robin presented themselves as overwhelmed, misunderstood victims of disloyalty. But where were their contributions? There's a chilling quote from Janelle in season 17. "I have nothing, I don't own anything. My name is on the property, but I have no house, no assets." She wasn't exaggerating. After 30 years of plural marriage, she walked away with less than she started with. This wasn't just personal betrayal, it was financial entrapment. The land at Coyote Pass, still undeveloped, no homes, no building permits, just a shared dream that Kody held on to like a trophy, even as his family unraveled around him. And now, here's the question no one wants to ask. What happens when the TLC paychecks stop, when the show ends, when the cameras go away? What's left? Robin and Kody have no known businesses, no income streams. Christine is building something new. Janelle is hustling with Plexus and trying to stabilize. But that big, blended, famous Brown family, it's starting to look like a house of cards, held up by TV money, emotional debt, and loyalty that was never mutual. And now, with Garrison gone, the cost isn't just financial, it's irreparable. If there's one character in the Sister Wives saga who remains a mystery even after 18 seasons, it's Mary, the first wife, the legal wife, until she wasn't, and maybe the most emotionally complex of them all. For years, we watched Mary navigate isolation, her only biological child. Layan left the nest early. Her marriage with Kody crumbled in public, and then came the emotional death nail: Kody telling her flat out, "There's no more marriage here." And still she stayed in the margins, stayed emotionally available, stayed loyal, but loyal to what? When Christine found the courage to leave to claim happiness outside of Kody, Mary didn't celebrate her. She was cold, dismissive. There's a moment where she says, "Christine made a choice that's not my choice." The tone almost judgmental. Why? Because Mary didn't leave even when Kody made it clear she wasn't wanted. So Christine's liberation wasn't just painful to witness, it challenged Mary's entire survival strategy over time. Mary's silence became its own kind of language. She didn't speak out about Kody's double standards. She didn't protest when Robin became the center of his world. She didn't comfort Janelle as she broke down over Kody abandoning their sons. Instead, she lingered at family functions on Coyote past plans next to Robin. Let's talk about that. Because it's hard to ignore in recent seasons, Mary seemed more aligned with Robin than anyone else. She defended Robin's tears. She stayed loyal to Kody's rules even when those rules broke the hearts of her own sister wives, even when Garrison and Gabriel were shut out. So here's the hard question. At what point does loyalty become complicity? When a parent emotionally neglects their children? When a husband punishes his wives for independence and someone stays silent? Doesn't that silence help protect the abuser? Maybe Mary was surviving. Maybe she thought staying loyal would earn her love again. Or maybe deep down, she believed that love meant suffering now, as the family collapses in the wake of Garrison's death. Mary's silence feels louder than ever. She's no longer Kody's wife. She's not close to Robin. She has no real position in the family structure, and maybe that's the cost of staying loyal to a fantasy that was never going to save her. If there's one chapter in the sister wives story that shifted the entire foundation, it was the arrival of Robin. She didn't just join the family, she redefined it, because from the very beginning, Kody didn't treat Robin like a sister wife. He treated her like a soulmate, a sacred bond, a monogamous wife wrapped in the language of plural marriage, and the show never hid it. While the other wives were navigating cramped rentals, broken marriages, and the emotional weight of raising a dozen kids, Robin had Kody's full attention, his time, his affection, his presence. Remember when Christine was pregnant and moving, Kody was at Robin's place when Janelle's boys needed a father figure through high school. Kody was quarantining, but only with Robin when Mary was sobbing alone in her empty home. Kody was building a sacred space with Robin. The message was clear. Robin's marriage wasn't just different, it was superior, wrapped in spiritual language, framed as divinely inspired. But in reality, it was favoritism disguised as faith. Kody's so-called spiritual leadership had rules, but they only applied to the others. He demanded obedience from the older kids like Garrison and Gabriel, but let Robin's children live under a different set of expectations. He shamed Christine for leaving a spiritually dead marriage, but never once questioned his own emotional absence. He scolded Mary for not earning back his love, while Robin never had to. And every time the family buckled under the weight of that hypocrisy, Kody and Robin played the victims. They wept about loyalty. They clung to the idea of being misunderstood. They watched the family fracture and still insisted they were just trying to hold it together. But let's be honest, you can't claim to be the spiritual leader of a plural family when your actions scream monogamy. You can't ask your kids to choose the family when you've already chosen your favorite. And the impact wasn't just emotional, it was generational. Kids, like Garrison, were left confused, angry, and alone. They saw their dad choose one household over and over. They were told family is everything, while watching him build a wall around Robin and call it sacred. So, when we look at what went wrong, we have to name it clearly. The sacred marriage wasn't a blessing. It was a wedge, one that shattered trust, divided homes, and pushed the children, especially the boys, into emotional exile. And now, in the wake of Garrison's death, that wedge feels permanent, because what Robin and Kody called spiritual connection, the rest of the family experienced as abandonment. We started this story with Garrison because his death didn't come out of nowhere. It came from years of emotional neglect, fractured family dynamics, and a father who was present on camera, but absent when it mattered most. The cracks weren't hidden. They were televised, and yet when the tell-all specials roll around, we don't get truth, we get spin, we get vague answers, carefully edited sound bites, tears with no accountability over and over again. Viewers have watched Kody deflect blame, point fingers at Christine Frame, Janelle as disobedient, cast himself as the one who's been betrayed. But here's the hard truth. A man cannot claim betrayal when he was never truly there. The older children tried to say it. Christine tried to say it. Even Mary, in her silences, tried to say it. But the show, whether out of protection or fear, refused to go deep. And now it's time, no more softly lit interviews where Kody says, "I just wanted peace." No more dodging behind family complexities while boys like Garrison fall through the cracks, because this isn't about ratings anymore. It's about real people, real damage, real loss. Garrison is gone, and that should be the wake-up call. The fans have been here. They saw it coming. They called it out. But instead of listening, TLC gave us a polished version, a curated family drama with just enough tension to keep the story going, but not enough truth to hold anyone accountable. So here's the plea, not just from viewers, but from anyone who believes in truth over television. TLC, stop protecting the brand. Stop editing around pain. Give these kids the space to speak. Let Janelle, Christine, Gabriel, and yes, even Mary tell the truth without fear of narrative control. We don't need another season of carefully staged living room interviews. We need a reckoning. We need a tell. All that actually tells all. Because without that, there's no healing, no growth, no justice for the children who were left behind. So don't give us PR, give us the truth for Garrison, for every silent child in that house, and for the fans who never stopped watching because they were hoping maybe just once someone would finally say, "This is what really happened." We watched this family for over a decade. We celebrated their joys. We act with their losses. And many of us hoped that despite the chaos, love would win. But love without truth, that's not love. It's control. Garrison's story should be the turning point, not just another tragic footnote, not something glossed over in a montage next season with soft music and vague narration. This is a call to TLC, to the Brown family, to us as viewers. No more looking away. No more sugarcoating. No more pretending Kody's leadership was ever spiritual, when it left so many of his children feeling unloved, unheard, and abandoned. We need real conversations. We need space for the children's voices. We need accountability that doesn't end with, "I just didn't know what else to do." Because if a father can lose his son and still blame everyone but himself, then the show isn't just broken. The system is. So as we move forward, the question isn't will they film another season? It's will they finally tell the truth? And if they won't, then we will. This was for Garrison, for the siblings still trying to make sense of what happened, and for every viewer who saw the signs and refused to stay silent. We're done with silence. We're choosing truth.